So, in light of the other videos in this YouTube channel, you know, unfortunately, they kind of lead a person to a wall. There's just some some findings just won't be accepted as evident as they are, as true as they are, and stuff. So, a person has to certify that they are honest and stuff, meaning that they have to certify that they told the truth. Um, so, so that and so that it will be understood and stuff. It's something that can be trusted. Okay, so um, however, there's a lot more sources of misinformation, disinformation, and just low qualities of information versus valid information, like good information and stuff. Sources where it's not just like he said, she said, truth claims and stuff, blah blah blah. So let's go into it. Here shows a little bit about my background and stuff. Um, I will. I mean, yeah. So as a premise, it was the recent leak from the Qatari government pumping in counterintelligence, anti-intelligence into the United States through Harvard University wasn't the first leak. There was many others, and we found ourselves in quite a mess where people have really a lot of stupid nonsense in their head about many topics and stuff, from the impact of vaccines, what vaccines are made of, to uh, things like gravity and stuff, and other things related to physics and history and uh, political theory and stuff. Like people have lost their minds, and a lot of it is because of the amount of nonsense they get fed through mass media. Mass media will not further your education. It's kind of, I'm laughing because it's just I'm just thinking of how many people believe the nonsense that's in so much that's in mass media, from like social media and stuff to most of the news and whatnot. Like I, it's it sucks. It sucks, but it's funny at the same time. So um now, as a note, with philosophy, you have to be extremely careful because a lot of it is just elaborations on things, people, and ideas that don't necessarily need language and stuff, and which means that the philosophies are kind of self-serving and whatnot. But there's philosophies that are proven and logical and stuff that are good. Um, and there's philosophies that contain valuable knowledge, which are good. That's good for you. So you should ingest as much of that as possible. So yes, what are some examples of so yeah, official textbooks. Preferably, you want the most updated one, preferably in paper and stuff. When you're reading a paper book, you're just not like you're not straining the eyes as much. You don't have to deal with the screen beaming light at you and stuff. You're actually making your eyes work a little bit more instead of your eyes being beamed on and stuff. Um, and of course, you're avoiding radiation and stuff. So yeah, paper books are good. Some forms of paper though have some chemical residues on them. You want to be careful with that and keep your hands clean. Um, there's a lot of good, uh, safe, natural soaps and stuff. Um, and you also have to be careful about the ancient textbooks and stuff. For example, there's this ancient textbook which goes around a lot called Physiognomy by Dr. Joseph Sims. Books like that don't necessarily give you every detail and perspective, and you're not really getting something that logical. Um, the book thinks it's explaining everything to you. It doesn't explain everything to you. Yeah, so records. primary source records like certified photos and video and stuff. In this age of doctored video and pictures being circulated almost in every mass media and stuff, so many different web pages and stuff, you have to be careful not to fall prey to that stuff. Peer review publications, those are good. Peer review is good. It's a lot of unaffiliated experts checking through the data and stuff, and it's good stuff. It's a pretty good process. Is there variance in the quality of process? Sure, but it's good. It's still good. It's a lot better than just reading a book that doesn't cite its sources, or reading a book that isn't written by an actual expert in the field, that is, clearly telling you something that's not going to lead you the wrong way. And so it's very important to be led the right way and stuff. And I implore, you to make knowledge bases for yourself, because you can filter out all of the stuff that doesn't apply, or the stuff that's false and stuff, and come at a complete picture of the time and place you're trying to address and stuff. And having a sense of what your application is, and a sense of the meaning of the material is very important stuff throughout this whole process. So peer review publications, first principles, logic, and reasoning. Yeah, this is very important. So it's good to read with critical thinking and stuff. It's just good. But a person needs to be very careful with verbal analytical logics, like, words in math, because while they might be correct, they're not necessarily complete and stuff, which kind of goes back to what I was talking about with Dr. Joseph Sims in his books. I don't try to discredit Dr. Joseph Sims, but it's just that, like, he wrote some ignorant stuff in that book. Let's be real. Let's be very real about that. There's websites where you could consult multiple AIs on the same question. Those are very good for getting purified information. It's really good. Online academic databases. You have these great databases like from the military schools, Ivy League, MIT, Brandeis, Tufts, NYU, George Washington University, and way more. We have the online occupational databases. This occupational databases for training, the union documentations for union knowledge bases, military news. Military news is pretty good as far as its factual accuracy and stuff. We have, so I talk about knowledge bases you build yourself. Yeah, these are some criteria for a good source. Here we go, statistical databases. Here's some much more. This, you have YouGov, status of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the World Bank Open Data, the American Statistical Association, and it's much more. There's way more good sources than that. These are all sources that are just third-party science. They're not trying to sell you anything or anything of the like. They're just reporting facts. That is their business and incentive. Um, and you know, if a lot of us have a chief authority we go by and stuff that can touch on perspectives on religion um, as well. But you know, you're the most chief authority is going to be right, and yeah, the, like meaning what they say is going to be accurate and true, reliable, something you can respect to read or hear and stuff because it is true or reliable. You know, um, some factual databases in like almanacs, online fact books, online libraries, and bookstores is always great. Think tanks, experts, etc. So you have a list of think tanks that's reported on Wikipedia. With Wikipedia, you have to be very careful because about 25% of it is not factually accurate. So, um, and you know, then another percentage of it is like just very old sources that are talking about another time and place. We're in 2026 in February, so um, verging on the last day of February. So, yeah, this is it's very important to um, it's very important to make sure that your facts are up to date. Um, Here's some examples of some top think tanks. Uh, Fact Check News. Um, you know, here's some organizations that certify information from the news or check if it's not true, whatever. Ad Fontes Media, Media Bias Fact Check, All Sides, global fact checking sites. I don't know what examples of those would be. I've looked through many. Factcheck.org, PolitiFact, um, Snopes, Better News Fact Checking, and First Draft. Maybe I think this is. I don't know. And some certified news outlets, yeah, Reuters and 1440 News. 1440 News is very good because they try not to make you crazy, so that's good. Yeah, those uncensored news sites where they don't, you know, all of the political manipulation and stuff is not done. Those are great. That's good primary sources right there. Um, though they can often contain some pretty dangerous information that really shouldn't be passed on. Though, like you have to understand that with the news, you're getting snippets that can be used in all kinds of arguments, in all kinds of claims, and other communications and stuff. So you have to be very careful about things like misleading allegations or defamations and stuff like that. Just be like, yeah, you know. Um, so yeah, there you go. That's some examples of sources to get your facts from when you're trying to like come to understand something. Um, any topic, you know, science from science to math to history, politics, and whatnot. Yeah. Now let's just quickly address the topic of creativity and stuff. Um, when it comes to art and stuff, you know, art does say whatever it wants to say, and it does show whatever it wants to show. And you know, there's going to be a time and place for every creation a person can make and everything a person can say or write and stuff. Um, so so most art is probably good, probably encourageable and stuff, but you know, the, a person ought not to say and do whatever they want. It's just how it is. It's just how it is. And yeah, yeah. There's also the topic of factual sourcing and morality and stuff. um, you know, if morality is grounded in information, if the basis of morality is information and stuff, then the source of the the referential source of that information, that where that information is tied to as a referential mechanism and stuff, is probably is probably going to be changeable and stuff. So you probably want to focus more on the source. Um, and I mean, we're at almost 16 minutes here, so I can just cut it short here.